So good evening to Dr. Nick Thompson, who needs no introduction, founder of the Raw Vet Society, gosh, nearly 8 years ago.
Oh God, is it? Yes. Let's have a look. It's 22/14/8. Yeah, so it'll be 8 years this year. I can't believe it. It's gone so quickly.
Gone so quickly. I'm also owner of Holistic Vet Limited.
Yep.
And your mission is to spread the word of species-appropriate raw feeding for cats and dogs. And I believe you've helped many thousands. So thank you for spending time chatting about those horrible, pesky external and internal parasites.
Yeah, pleasure. There's a lot of them about, and it's a big subject. And I'm really pleased to be here to be able to look at the individual dog, but also just the bigger picture, the global picture, and the ecological picture as well. I think it's really important.
Absolutely. So at the moment, there are a lot of people I talk to who are having flea issues at the moment. In February, any idea why?
Yeah, fleas, like humans, love central heating. They like when it's warm, and so in the old days when we were all living in little cottages, that your flea problem, however bad during the summer, would die with the first few frosts because your house would be super cold as well, and that usually got rid of most fleas. But nowadays everybody's got centrally heated houses, and so the dogs or the cats will bring fleas indoors in summer, in autumn, what have you, and the fleas settle in, and they have a very nice time in cracks and crevices. What I've learned recently in recent years is that they, as well as carpets and sofas and soft cushions and what have you, which is what we were taught at college, they also like to go into the crevices between floorboards being very trendy these days. And so if you're treating fleas in your house, you have to remember to do in between the floorboards.
Absolutely everything. And I remember years ago having to do a horrible bomb, which was awful. I'll never do it again. But how do we treat them?
Okay, officially, the pharmaceutical approach is to treat the dog with either a spot on or a tablet. I'm a real, what's the opposite of a fan? I'm really skeptical about Bravecto and NexGard, and so those are the last things I would advise people to use. But I would suggest you use the most ecological, the least ecologically damaging product on the dog. If you have dogs and cats, then it's often, I'm afraid, and I'm not being catist because we have a cat here at home, it's often the cat that brings in the fleas and gives it to the dogs. So if you've got even a small flea problem, you have to be really aggressive. And there's, like I say, there's two ways of doing it. You can do it with pharmaceuticals, or you can do it naturally. If you catch it early, you can go the natural route. But if you catch it late, then you're pretty much forced to do the pharmaceutical route. The pharmaceutical route is really easy. You treat the dog, the cat, and you've got to treat the house. If you just treat the dog and the cat, then there's still a buildup of larvae in the environment, and so as soon as the product wears off, the larvae will just jump straight back on. So you have to do the house. However, if you can use natural products aggressively, then you may not have to use pharmaceuticals. And when with the natural products that I use for fleas, and these will be quite useful for ticks as well. Ticks you'll get later in the year from about Easter onwards in the Northern Hemisphere. But so not natural, with the natural products, you use something in the dog. Let's talk about dogs. So for example, it's similar with cats, but we'll just use dogs as an example. You need something in the dog and you need something onto the dog, okay, for the full effect. Obviously, raw feeding is really, really essential for good skin quality. And I think that raw fed dogs are less attractive to fleas than conventionally fed dogs, especially if they've got lots of B vitamins going into them. I often use a bit of some brewer's yeast, some garlic and some ginger in the food during flea season. Can be very, very useful. So that's going inside. you can buy proprietary products. For example, Vermex, my friends at Vermex, with whom I work, they've got a product called Flea and Tick, and it's really strong, herby, spicy mix, and you put it in the food, and it makes the dog less attractive
Like
to
garlic.
fleas. There you go. Yeah, and you're using garlic and brewer's yeast and that combination that we just discussed as well. You can use those together, and ideally you'd use them through spring, summer, and autumn, and have a rest over the winter. Okay, so that's internally. Externally, there's two products that I like. Now, one is by my darling wife Ellie, and she has a company called Dermadog. And I should, if I was if I was really on the ball, I'd have a pot of this stuff
I've
here.
got some in the house.
Oh, have you? Right.
The defense spray.
Well done. It's exactly.
Yeah.
So her company is called dermadog.com, and she does an insect defense spray. And it's a small spray, and it contains lemongrass, and it contains cedar oil, and a mixture of essential oils, which makes the dog less attractive to fleas. Yeah, so it's on the outside, so it's kind of the obvious thing. Put something on the dog, less attractive to fleas. Okay, the stuff on the inside from the Vermex flea and tick product, that's more interesting. But I think you may be able to get away with just using the internal stuff, or you may be able to get away with just using the external stuff. And if you really have to go to town, you've got to use both. So, but the important thing is to use those generously so that you are less likely to have to use the pharmaceuticals of this world.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
How do you feel about diatomaceous earth?
Diatomaceous earth, I like it. I really do. If I've got so if somebody comes to me with worms, I will talk to them about the pharmaceutical approach because I'm obliged to, because I'm a veterinary surgeon. But many people who I talk to are not keen on using pharmaceuticals if they can help it. So if somebody says, my dog's got some roundworms and I would like to use something to help the gut, I will say, right, let's go for either an extended course of Vermex, or a double dose course of Vermex, or a double dose extended course of Vermex, and I'll often use some diatomaceous earth. Diatomaceous earth is really interesting stuff. It's made of diatoms, that's why it's got this funny name. And a diatom is a little prehistoric beastie which was swimming around in the oceans. They then died, and they percolate to the bottom of the ocean millions of years ago. They get compacted into rock layers. So and enterprising mining types come along, they dig out this diatomaceous earth, they powder it into fine but not too fine, that is food grade diatomaceous earth powder, and you can then put that in or on your cat or your dog or your house. Yeah. If you put it in the dog, it helps to control and eliminate worms, and if you put it on the dog or the cat, then it helps to deter fleas. Okay, so Vermex and diatomaceous earth, those would be my first two. If the problem is mild or medium, I would just use the Vermex. If it was severe, I would use the Vermex, and I would add some diatomaceous earth just for some extra oomph for roundworms or even tapeworms, to come to that.
Okay, what about a lot of people talk about pumpkin seed, ground organic pumpkin seed being, I use that actually for my dogs probably 2 times a week, just ground up in a half teaspoon in their food. Is there evidence that is a really good, because obviously it's a very natural thing?
I think it's brilliant. Ground pumpkin seed is absolutely fantastic. The key with that is to grind it fine, i.e. coffee grinder is ideal if you've got one. Grind it fine, and grind only a small amount at any one time so that it's fresh, because as soon as you grind it, it will oxidize. It'll go off, it'll begin to go off, so it'll be not very useful a week down the line. There is evidence that the constituents within the pumpkin seed are anti-parasitic, so that's brilliant. I'm not sure anybody's ever done any before and afters, but I'm very confident that it's a useful thing to use, very definitely. So garlic is also has antiparasitic properties, and using that with apple cider vinegar and
Just going to come on to that one.
using pumpkin seeds, I think you're in a great space there, because the beauty of these things, garlic, pumpkin seeds, apple cider vinegar, they're food. Yeah, you're just taking slightly increased levels of these food substances, and lo and behold, you're making worms' life really difficult. So
They don't want to be.
yeah, they don't want to be there. You know, they'll go and find another gut which doesn't have these herbal products going through. So yeah, it's really good, and it's lovely to be able to take control of those things yourself and not just think, oh, I've got to go and get some pharmaceuticals from the vet or from the internet or from wherever it is. And that for me would bring me on to the whole ecological thing. I think in this day and age, we have to think about not just our dogs and cats, not just our family who will be exposed to the pharmaceuticals that we use on our dogs and cats, but we have to be very conscious of the environment, because that if you give that dog a tablet of Brevecto or NexGard, they're going to be pooping this this pesticide onto the environment, and even if you pick up, there will be traces.
And into the river. Dogs that jump
and yeah, they go jumping in the rivers, and they will intoxicate the rivers, and this is well recognized. This stuff is very well documented, that insect life in rivers in the UK is a fraction of what it used to be. I'll give you an example of how I see that the insect life in the UK is a fraction of what it used to be in the old days. Because in the old days, obviously, Molly, you're not old enough to realize to remember this, but in the old days, even 20 years ago, you'd go for a drive for an hour, and the entire front of your car would be covered in midges and bugs. Nowadays, your car is pristine. And what has changed? What has changed is the agricultural and domestic animal use of pesticides has exploded. It's actually exploded since about the 60s with DDT. I'm just reading Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, which is a fantastic book to read if anybody's interested in this thing. And you know what? We haven't learned a thing. We're just using, in the old days it was DDT, which is, and related products, evil, absolutely evil. But I think what's happened since then is that the people who make these pesticides, I think just their PR is an awful lot better. So we still use the products, we're still killing bees and insects and the environmental ecosystems, but the PR for the chemical companies are much more clever.
Look at going to a supermarket and walking down, forget the dog food aisle because that is my least favorite place, but the just Roundup and all the things. We haven't used any chemicals on our land for many years, and luckily it hasn't. And wildflower, I mean, at least wildflower meadows are now in again, aren't they? But the whole chemical thing terrifies me. And it's in food, it's in everything. What about going back to pesky parasites again? What about fermented veg? A lot of people talk about fermented veg. I know obviously that's amazing for gut health, but does that repel nasty pesky worms?
I'm not sure whether I know it's a great question, and I'm not sure whether it is a direct effect, but in that if you feed your dog loads of sauerkraut, they won't have worms. I'm not sure whether it's direct like that. However, what you can say is that if you feed fermented product to your dog, sauerkraut, kimchi, yogurts and kefirs and these things like this, your dog's gut, as long as you're not feeding rubbish, I think you're feeding a fundamentally good diet, i.e. fresh or raw food. If you're feeding these fermented foods, the gut is going to be much healthier, and parasites are less comfortable in a healthy gut than they are in a devitalized, degraded gut. And so if you can keep your gut in really, really fantastic shape, and I think actually using Vermex, we've seen that microbiome and gut health really does improve. Empirically, we have seen these things, and we've done some before and after testing, and it seems it makes a really good benefit to the microbiome. Obviously, using good quality probiotics can help as well, but the fundamental is that you can't supplement your way out of a bad diet. So if you're feeling not the greatest food, you can buy all the supplements you like, but you're not really going to get there. You've got to get your fundamentals correct, i.e. a good diet, a fresh diet. You can get a lightly cooked food if you like. You can get a raw food, I would prefer, but you get the basics right, and then everything else will much more easily fall into place.
I've seen, in fact, I think I don't need it luckily for my dogs at the moment, but Vermex do but is it the tincture that's the purest one? What's in? Don't know what's in it.
They do. Yeah, they do. They do crunchies, which are which a lot of people like, because you give just a few crunchies every day to the dog or to the cat. That's what we do with our guys. But what you can do is, for 3 days each month, you use a liquid formulation, which has a combination of 10 herbs, which you just pulse dose every 3 days each month. You give them this dose of the liquid Vermex. If people are interested, and I'm not promoting it, you can get whatever you like. It's just I like this product. Just give them a ring, give Vermex, give them a buzz, and they'll be able to guide you as to what you've got. The option for cats and dogs: crunchies or liquid, and it's a really easy thing to do, and they accept it really well. This is not an advert for Vermex. It's just we happen to talk about.
Yeah, but we're trying to talk about the products we like. I think Connor's got his Deneen, isn't he? His diatomaceous earth. I think that's something I think.
Yeah.
No, we don't mind. Well, we promote anyone on here, but it's not about that. It's about trying to, as you quite rightly say, a well-fed, healthy dog or cat won't probably attract them as much. Also, those worm counts. We do worm count a couple of times a year.
Worm count. I use wormcount.com at my practice. They're really, really good. Michaela and the guys up at wormcount.com, they don't pay me, unfortunately, but I do think that they're very, very, very good company. And therefore I point everybody. There is also FEC Lab, FEC Lab, and Westgate Laboratories, and they're all good guys, but we use wormcount.com, and what you do is you send off a poo sample from the cat or the dog every 3 to 6 months, and they tell you whether your dog's got worms or not, and they'll help you with it. And they also do a Giardia. If the dog's got suddenly not so great, they'll do a Giardia test for you, and which is really useful as well.
Well, I do that regularly, and in fact we do it with our sheep too, and my husband's great delight putting warm sheep poo in the post. So there are so many, and going back to the fleas again, I mean, I've got a couple of notes here, but the essential oils, obviously, that Ellie uses in her wonderful Dermadog defense spray, it seemed to be lavender, peppermint, lemon, eucalyptus, rosemary, and sage. They seem to be, not that she uses all of those, but they seem to be the ones that are the most repellent. Would that be about right?
I think one of the key in the insect defense spray, this is my hand gesture for a spray. Yes.
Yeah. Dogs running away.
This is a spray. Yeah, exactly. One of the kits, as far as I can make out, it's cedar oil and rose geranium. Those are the two. So in that particular, she uses all the herbs that you mentioned in her other product. She has an itchy shampoo, and she has a glossy shampoo, and she has a neutral shampoo, and all these different types of shampoo. But with the insect defense spray, that one's cedar and rose geranium. Yeah, rose geranium. There's
actually, if you've got fleas, those again, delighted to promote Ellie's wonderful company, but her glossy shampoo, when you wash your dog doesn't feel so stripped of oils, because there are so many lovely essential oils in there. They don't feel. I very rarely wash my lot, but if I do, I would certainly use that, because they don't feel like they've had every oil stripped out of them. And presumably, the good old-fashioned saying my dad used to say, I'm going to go and drown the fleas. So presumably, if you submerge your dog into water, not your cat, because I don't think they like it very much. I tried once.
Yeah.
But that does drown the fleas, and it's submerging them into water with a decent shampoo.
I think it will reduce the number of fleas on your dog.
Yeah.
If it was as easy as that, I don't think we'd have a flea. There wouldn't be a flea
No, I suppose not. No.
issue, and all the dogs who swam wouldn't have fleas ever. So I think it'll take off a few, definitely.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting about heating now. I mean, I guess you hadn't really thought about, we live in, well, not me personally, but we live in warmer houses where these pesky things like hiding. And I don't know what how long would it take if you to totally detox your house? If you had that many problems, you would probably have to go down the slightly more conventional, nasty route to get rid of all the larvae.
Yeah, if you treated dog and cat and house, you'd probably be flea-free pretty quickly using the pharmaceuticals. Yeah,
But then
that's why they're so attractive. Yeah.
But then you'd kill all the ladybirds and the spiders and everything else.
You'd have no spiders or anything in your house for a year, because the permethrin sprays that they use to treat the house, they just nuke everything, every insect, which is really sad. We've got spiders galore in this house.
They're there for a reason.
That's the way it should be. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's really helpful, Nick. And yeah, anyone who wants to come and ask a question, obviously, we're really grateful to the supporters, because without them we couldn't do what we do, and we are trying in the Raw Feeding Vet Society to spread the word. So thank you, Nick. I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, and just really grateful for your time.
Absolute pleasure. It's lovely to talk to you. If you'd like to talk about anything else, if anybody has any burning topics, be really happy to engage with anything. Nothing is off the table. Fantastic.
We love that, and hopefully people can put it on the digest or whatever the thing is. I can't see it in front of me because I'm hopeless. I'm a technical dinosaur. But anyway, that's absolutely brilliant, Nick. Thank you a million times. And this can be watched at any stage. So hopefully it's been helpful.
Great stuff.
Have a lovely evening. And
thank you very much, Molly. It's great to see you. Keep up the good work. And anything I can do to help, please shout.
Thank you. You're a star.
See you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.